Most remodeling companies that are spending ten to $20,000 a month on marketing are actually flying blind. So I was listening to this podcast by Brian Ellis, right? So he's the CEO of Refloor. Basically, they're doing $63 million in flooring. And what the principles that he uses is basically no ego, just numbers. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact weekly scorecard system that the elite remodelers use to track every marketing dollar. And with this scorecard system, you know exactly where every dollar goes, eliminate waste within 30 days, and then you'll be able to redirect that money to channels that actually close jobs, all in less than 30 minutes per week. All right, let's get started. All right, so here's the dilemma that a lot of two companies that are basically at $2 million in revenue. So here's the dilemma they face, right? So first of all, you're past the referral stage, right? So again, having just the referrals only, it's not going to cut it for your business, right? So you're past that, you're having a marketing budget, like having a full marketing budget. I mean, this is actually real money, right? I mean, I have clients that are spending between $10,000 to $20,000 every month on marketing. But then a lot of companies at this stage are actually making decisions based on a feel, like thinking, okay, no, this is how I feel. I feel this is working, or I feel this is what we should do, right? Instead of data, right? So half of remodelers, again, I was reading the SORCI report, don't calculate ROI and don't know how to actually calculate ROI. And then the problem is what this actually costs you is that if you're not keeping score, you're going to spend yourself out of business. I mean, by the time you spend all the money in the market and then you find out at the end of the day, where has the money gone, right? So you see like the profit margins like, diminishing and dwindling like as the day goes by. This is how we're going to have to stop it, right? Stop you from wasting 10 to 20K annually on inefficient spend. The thing is, a lot of people actually spend money on marketing, and then you think that, okay, you know what, this might actually be working. But the problem is some of them are inefficient, and then we'll actually find ways to actually find out which ones are the inefficient ones, and then you get better business that way. All right. So going back to what Brian Ellis had, right? So his core philosophy, so he says is like we are in the business of new business, right? What does it mean by that? So basically what he's saying is like, you know what, we are actually here to buy customers. We are actually buying customers. That, and again, everything has to happen without thinking about it, without being emotional about it. So every week you're going and you're checking how many customers did we buy for 100K. So they're actually spending like $100,000 on leads just every week, right? And with this $100,000, you would think, okay, that's a lot of money, but the way you have to approach it is that you have no ego. So no ego, no emotions. Only the data is going to talk in this case. Only the data is going to have an effect, right? There's no idea of, okay, I'm just getting my name out there, or I want people to know about me. We are building a brand. You can build a brand, but still have no emotions about how you're building that as well too, right? So when you have this, the best way to monitor this is via spreadsheet. I mean, the easiest way is probably a spreadsheet system, right? But later I'm going to show you the AI prompt that does this automatically. So that AI prompt is going to give you the executive summary, which you can share with CEOs, CMOs, and then a channel by channel breakdown with actual ROI calculations, right? So that prompt basically frees you from having to like hire like a $8,000 a month marketing analyst. So that's coming up in the next in shortly here, right? So now let's talk about the metrics that you have to measure, right? So the metrics that has to be measured in this case. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is cost per lead. And then we have to break that down by channel, right? So you track every source separately. So for example, if you have a Google lead coming in at $500 per lead, right? So you could have Google, you track that source, $500 per lead, right? Then you have Facebook, which is pretty much most of the time cheaper, right? So you get probably like about, I don't know, $150 to $100 per lead. And then the idea is when you see what's working, you can start moving around start moving money around to give you the most affordable leads, right? So that's the first one we're going to track, right? The second metric that we're going to track is the quality score. So what the quality score means is like how what's the intent of this list? How high intent do they have, right? So for example, Google leads are like really high intent. Especially if it's Google PPC, not YouTube. Like someone who is actually searching, I want a full home renovation right now, they're closing 20-25% and higher, right? So then you have your Facebook leads, which are probably lesser intent. Then you have canvassing, probably somewhere in the middle, right? So you would rate them mid, high, and then low, right? And then you now decide, okay, how do we track the closing percentage by source, right? So that's the second metric we're going to chart. The third one is what we call the revenue per lead. So for revenue per lead, we want to track also everything via the source as well too, right? So how much revenue do we have per lead, and then also track that by channel, right? So this tells you which expensive leads are actually profitable. And then the last one that we also want to track is speed to contact. What we call is speed to lead, right? How instantaneous are we reaching out to these leads? Like a lot of industry stats actually show that the average response time is over 10 hours. If someone fills in their details in a lead form and then you call them 10 hours later, you might as well forget about that lead. You might as well have not spent money and just throw that money down the drain for that lead, right? I was reading a report that said 47% of companies don't respond to some leads at all. They have missed calls. Again, these are like, I'm hoping this is not you because there are a lot of newbie companies out there. But basically, responding within 5 to 30 minutes is crucial, because with the goldfish brain that human beings have right now, it's going to be really hard if you're actually wasting more, like, time to reaching out to these leads, right? Because they are like 100 times more likely to connect if you're reaching out to them really quickly, right? And then the good thing about it is you can actually solve this via AI. In our company, we're able to solve this by actually implementing an AI appointment setter that takes the lead within 3 minutes. Actually, I'm going to show you how that works. Right. So this is what we have, right? So that we've implemented for our clients, where we have like an AI appointment setter. So we immediately the lead signs in, we wait 3 minutes, so it doesn't look like automated, and then we have David reaching out. David is not our he's not a human being. He's an AI agent that says, okay, you know what, I see you reach out via Facebook page, looking to develop your basement, and then it goes and then it starts having a chat, and then it goes back and forth until the point where it actually books them directly into an appointment, right? So at this point, we've extended this. You can actually ask for like a budget, like, or at least a preliminary budget, right? When they would like to start. Tell me about your project, right? So we have David going back and forth within 3 minutes. So imagine the lead signing up, and then 3 minutes later, they're already engaging with someone, right? That's what you call speed to lead. And then you have a calendar that looks like this, where you're booking clients in, or you're booking prospects in for calls, at least initial discovery calls for their project, right? So speed to lead is actually very, very crucial, and this is something that companies at this level have to actually implement. All right. Okay, so let's go back to this now, right? So as we were talking about, so yeah, so these are the metrics that we said we're gonna actually, so we have speed to lead, we have the revenue per lead, quality score, and then that's the cost per lead, and everything is also by channel. So whatever channel that you have, right? And then you can decide which channels you're going to scale, which channels you're going to actually like reduce spend on, right? And then the last one okay, actually, we're going to check also one more, right? So this one we're going to call the budget, right? So the weekly budget, and this is also per channel. And this is the number that's going to either go up or down depending on all the other previous metrics that we've been tracking, right? So Now the next step is, okay, how do you build this scorecard, right? How do you actually have something that is actually, actionable, right? So you can either use Excel. Excel is actually very, very easy. It's easy, it's free. But then what you can do is actually build a full dashboard, right? We built a dashboard for one of our clients where we are actually showing the complete scorecard. So we have here information here that actually shows, the, basically we have those metrics here. We have the number of leads, we have the cost per lead, we have the ad spend. All that shows, it shows everything on the chart there. So we have 4 clients in this system right now. The total number of leads, 1,000 leads just in the last, I would say 3 to 4 months, right? And then total ad spend, and then the average cost per lead. And then we are tracking that by channel as well too, right? And then the best thing that we can do is, okay, yeah, how are we splitting this up? Like, we find unqualified leads, the ones that have been contacted, right? How many consultations have been booked, right? So imagine having like a huge, well, it's not really huge, right? Imagine having like a easy breakdown where you can actually just log in and then find out, okay, you know what, these are my metrics. Then it's so much more easier to run your marketing dollars than having to just fly by the seat of your pants thinking, okay, you know what, today I think this channel is actually working for me. Or I think we should spend money on home shows, for example, right? So earlier on, I was talking about the prompts that you can actually use into ChatGPT or any AI software that you use to actually help you create this scorecard, right? So I'm going to give it to you here. I'll probably link to it in the description below. And then let me just make this bigger here so you can easily see it. So you can see this prompt actually goes in and then starts telling, you know what, you're a marketing analyst specializing in home improvement for companies between $2 and $10 million in revenue. I need you to analyze my lead gen and ad spend data together to provide actionable ROI. So you can basically just give it your lead gen data, like your reports, and then ad spend that you've probably created in Excel. And then what it's going to do is give you context about the business, right? It's going to give you, and then you'll probably tell you about, okay, what does the data structure look like, right? For the ad spend and then for the lead data. And then what you want is like, okay, analyzing leads are only fall within dates where ad spend data exists, right? And then the good thing about this is we can also get all this information out, core metrics by source, for each source, date range and alignment and data quality, campaign level performance, ad set and ad creative analysis, especially if you're spending money on Meta or Google, right? And then it's giving you scenario modeling. And then what I really like about this prompt is the executive summary. 3 to 4 sentences, right? Saying the most critical finding, the biggest opportunity, the biggest waste, right? And then use tables to compare sources side by side, right? So I'm just going to show you, like, okay, I just probably came up with some mock data that we actually are able to get. So, and then put that in there with some ad spend data. And then I put it through Claude. You can do the same thing on ChatGPT as well, too, right? So before we get started, so let me just tell you what, and I put the leads data and then the ad spend data and say, you know what, please analyze this data and give me a report, right? And then I can give it all the information I need. And then you say, you know what, this is the average project value for kitchens, for home rentals, the target minimum ROAS, and then basically go have at it, right? And then it gives me like a complete ROI analysis. And then this is a report I can now go and say, you know what, I'm actually going to work with this, right? This is not telling me, okay, you know what, analyze number of leads. Okay, it's telling me you're actually hemorrhaging money on Facebook ads because you don't have any closed data, right? And this is just like some mock-up data that I came up with. And then we have analysis period, ad spend period, good data, and then we have the core metrics side by side, right? So for each of the services that we are offering, right? How much ad spend do we have? How many days was the ad spend active? Average daily ad spend. How many leads do we get? What's the return on investment, right? So you can see here, okay, we're actually having like a plus $2,000 return on investment on kitchens, and then a negative return on investment on the coaches and then home renovations. So what are we going to do? We're basically going to now cut the ad spend for that. And then we can now look by campaign, like which campaigns are actually bringing the best return on investment. So this is how you can actually decide, without any emotions, without no ego, as I said, right? Take the information and then use that to scale or reduce your ad spend depending on what channel you're working with. So now let's go back to the video where I was talking about home shows. If you're going to spend money on home shows, put your data in here, right? Put your data in here. I'm actually going to show you probably how you can do that too, right? So if you have a home show, you can basically track it and say, you know what, today we have the home show, and then we track how much did we spend on the booth, how much did we spend on the staff, what did we spend on lunches, what did we spend on marketing material, like like the stuff that you have to hang, right? The displays and all that. And then you have a budget. Let's say everything is probably cost about, I don't know, $8,000 on that home show. And then what do we do? So we get like, I don't know, 10 leads from this. Then you have an $800 per lead, $800 cost per lead on this one. And then you can also track that and then see, okay, how many do we have we reached out to, right? Have we reached out to them? When we reached out to them, how many actually convert into a sale? And then you can put all this together into the dashboard, and then you can compare it to, okay, I'm spending money on Facebook, this is how much I'm making. I'm spending money on Google, this is how much I'm making. And then your decisions are being made on actual data, right? So that was the first step, right? So basically, so as I said, the first step is to track the data, right? So step two is the weekly review, right? And in that one, pick the same time, same day every week, make it non-negotiable, right? Review it with whoever does it or whoever manages the marketing. And then you just need to find out two questions, right? Which sources beat the budget, right? Which channels beat the budget and which sources did not? If you review this with your marketing manager or your CMO every week, right, then you can know which lead sources to scale and which ones to like dial down, right? The third one is to move money fast. When I was into the podcast, Brian was like, we simply move money around to get the most affordable leads, right? Don't be attached to any channel, right? Don't be like, okay, you know what? I really like this channel. You can probably let's make it work. If it doesn't work, kill it. Double down on what does, right? If you don't do that, then you're going to be spending money inefficiently. And then the fourth one is track lead quality, not just quantity, right? So here we're tracking every day, building the scorecard. We have the tracking going, but then what we also need to now make sure that we do is that we're tracking the quality, because different sources have different close rates. A $200 lead that closes it like 40% beats $100 leads that closes 10%, right? You have to calculate what your cost per lead is, right? So if you have your cost per lead and what your close rate is, and that's your true acquisition cost, right? When you have that information, then you know how much it's actually costing you to acquire a client, right? So these are the four non-negotiable things that needs to be done, right? So when we do this, then we know that, okay, we're actually spending money efficiently. On the flip side, there are things that we absolutely need make sure that we mustn't do as well too, right? It's probably should be in red and not the other one, right? So, but anyways, so what we make sure that we mustn't do is we mustn't have ego-driven decisions, right? Some decisions will be like, you know what, yeah, I really like doing this thing, right? It's good for my ego. I haven't been able to make it work, but you know what? Let's still keep on trying and then see how we can get it working. If it's not working, we cut it. Obviously, you can give it probably some leeway. So you know what? We're gonna try this for the next 90 days. But after 90 days, it needs to actually pay for itself. If it doesn't pay for itself, then there's no point continuing, right? So there's no ego involved, right? It's basically how many leads did we buy, how many did we convert, right? So second thing is like no emotional driven attachments, which again is probably very similar, right? So no emotions, no ego, just look at the data, right? And then the biggest one is also we want to make sure that we're not waiting too long to adjust. Give it, as I said, give it 90 days, give it, some time, but when we do the weekly reviews, we do the weekly adjustments as well too. Don't let a bad channel like bleed money for months before you actually cut it out, right? So I, I hope this video has really been helpful, right? So if you basically go through what we've actually spoken about, the idea is we need at this level, we're no more dealing with referrals. We're not dealing with we're actually dealing with buying clients, right? As I said. Then we also need to make sure that we're actually tracking the correct metrics, right? The metrics that like cost per lead per channel, the quality score of every lead, and then also the revenue per lead, right? Then the other ones that we also need to make sure that we actually implement is speed to lead, right? Because if you implement speed to lead, you're not letting your leads go cold before you call them. When we do that, we lose so much more efficiency, right? And then weekly, we track the budget per channel, and then we either go up or down depending on what is working, right? And then your decisions have to really happen this way, right? So you track, you do a weekly review, you move money fast, and then you track the quality of every channel. And then what you make sure that you need to actually not do is not do any ego-driven, emotional-driven decisions, and don't wait so long to adjust. So I hope this video has really been helpful. If you would like us to help you implement a scorecard like the dashboard I showed you, or the speed to lead system, we have a huge package that we actually implement for remodeling companies. If you would like to find out how we can help you, there's a link in the description below. Book a call and then let's have a chat and then let's see how we can help. Looking forward to talking to you. See you in the next video. Bye bye.